Hi, so welcome back to the channel. It's now Sunday night. I have a beer and I'm going to tell you about how we actually bought our house. So the actual buying process. It's just me and the camera again, so it's not the most exciting, and I hope that very soon we'll be able to get back into Italy and there'll be more of making holes and painting walls and actually creating stuff. But a lot of people asked, how does the process work? How did the process work? So I'm going to run you through it. Ours was extremely complicated. I know it's not always this complicated, but I shall share with you what we learned along the way. So, as you saw on the last video, my little tips are: find the type of property that you want in the area that you want first. For that, you have a great array of websites. Casa, you can use Google Translate to make it all into whatever language your native tongue may be. Now we did this at the very end of 2018. We started looking at houses, and then in January we went to visit a couple of houses, including the one that we eventually bought. Now the house that we visited, we went to see with an estate agent, and I must say I don't think it would be possible to buy a house without having a good estate agent. But again, if you speak Italian, it's probably much easier. We don't really speak very much Italian. I can understand a bit, but it's certainly not at a stage where I could sit down and have a full-on discussion. So we went to see the house that we ended up buying, the house that we fell in love with, and the house that you guys have been watching me make holes in and try and fit with hot water and bathrooms and things like that. And we went to see it with an estate agent from Pontremoli called Davide, who was spoke extremely good English, and B, seemed to know everything about the region, and was extremely upfront and honest about the problems. So what are the problems? Well, initially, when you're going to see a property, obviously you have to kind of work out, is this making my heart beat faster? Is this what I really want? Can I deal with this amount of work? Do I need to have this work? But then you'll end up with other questions like, what is the roof like? That's something that you can probably see. You can see if there's water coming through. Light coming through a roof isn't a problem. Water is, strangely enough. But then there are other problems, and the other problems are things like wastewater. Where is the wastewater going if there is a toilet? And the house that we bought is in a village, so it was connected to mains water, and it was connected to wastewater a long time ago, because there is a toilet out on the terrace, and there is now a toilet in the house that we managed to connect to the old septic tank that then runs out into the village wastewater system. But Davide was able to explain to us that it's €1,000 to a connection, and what the water company was, how long it would take, what we would have to have fitted. So those were questions that were very important to ask before making an offer. So we knew exactly what we were getting ourselves into. You always hear these horror stories of people who bought houses but then were unable to live in them because they couldn't get any certifications. They couldn't fit a septic tank. They couldn't fit a toilet. And I'm sure there are some of you out there who think, oh, that's fine, but I'm no, definitely want a toilet sort of a person. So we visited. We drove down. We live in Austria, and we drove down to Italy. We stayed in a rental place, and we stayed for a few days. We went to visit it in January, so it was pretty cold, but the weather was quite nice. And then, without the estate agent, we drove back up to the village. We walked through the village. We looked around the village. We looked at the restaurants that was there. We had a drink. at the bar, I kind of, is this, asked ourselves, is this the sort of place? Because we'd fallen in love with the house, but it's not just a house. There is, you're going to be spending time there. It needs to be accessible. We saw how long it's going to take to get to a supermarket, how long it takes to get to a builder's merchant, what you can get, how long it takes to get to the beach, to the sea, to the harbour, if we eventually may buy a boat, who knows. So we looked at all of these things, and we still loved the house. So the next stage was to get back to Davide, to our estate agent, and make an offer. We made an offer that was substantially below asking price. And when I say substantially, I'm talking, almost 40% below asking price. But we did that honoured, having spoken to the estate agent. It wasn't an out of the blue thing. And this house had been on sale for a long time. It had been on the market, and lots of people have been interested in it, but no one had actually made an offer. So we made our offer, which was immediately turned down. It wasn't so easy because the particular house that we bought was part of a will, so it was left from the original owners to their 3 children, one of whom had died and been passed on to his 2 children. One of the children lives in Florida, one of the children still lives in the little village, one of the children lives in a nearby village, one of the grandchildren lives in the nearby village, and the other grandchild lives in Rome. So it was quite complicated getting everyone together. But we quite quickly managed to agree on a sum, and that sum was substantially below asking. It's important, I think, to make an offer that's reasonable, to not insult anybody, but make sure that your offer is able to give something back, because that's part of the key of negotiation, isn't it? Is that everyone feels like they've won. The price of anything is what the seller is willing to sell it for and the buyer is willing to pay for it, and that's true for almost everything in life. So once we'd agreed on a price, the estate agent set up a piece of paper which had our offer on it, with a time delay for the others to accept that offer, and a term that we wanted to complete on. So at this point, we work out, what the total costs are going to be. So this is where it gets a little bit more technical, and I'm sure someone will correct me on this, but as far as I've understood this, and all of this is my own experience, I'm not going to vouch for any of this or say, this is the way things are, but this is what we learned, what I understood, and certainly how it happened for us. Every house in Italy, irrespective of the price it sells for, has a government fixed tax value, and that tax value is on a big database, and everything that you pay, every fee that you pay to do with your house, if that's fees associated with buying the house or even fees associated with owning the house, like having the rubbish picked up, they're calculated off this tax value, and this is it's like a fiscal value that they attribute to the house, and it's normally substantially less than what you will pay for the house. So don't be surprised if you've paid 100,000 euros for a house and they turn around and say, well, the fiscal value that we're working all of these calculations on is 50 or 60,000 euros. That's quite normal. They will ask you at that point if you're going to be a permanent resident of Italy or not. And if you're going to be a permanent resident of Italy, you will pay a lot less stamp duty. But you have to then become a permanent resident within 18 months. Otherwise, you will have to pay that stamp duty back up to the higher level of stamp duty. And I'm not going to give the levels because they are, subject to change. And if someone watches this in a year's time, it'll be incorrect. But there are 2 levels of stamp duty. Well, there are 3 levels of stamp duty. There's one for farming land or farming properties, there's one for normal properties, and there's one for holiday homes. This is going to be our holiday home. So we declared that it was going to be a holiday home. We weren't going to be living there, so we had to pay the higher rate of tax. Still not ridiculous. We then have to pay the estate agent, and the seller also pays the estate agent. As far as I can tell, that's quite normal for Italy. So both sides pay half of what the due fees are. As with most things, below a certain price, there is a fixed price, and above that, it's a percentage price. That's also true for the stamp duty. We then had to pay the solicitor who did the paperwork, and that was sort of about it. That's sort of where the prices came in. So that all worked out to be almost 20% of what we'd offered, because we were in a low asking bracket. All of that came together. Now, it still wasn't a huge amount of money compared to Austria, certainly compared to London, where I'm originally from, and it's a lot of house. But we calculated this into it. So we made this offer knowing what we were going to be paying for, and the offer was accepted. And all of that happened quite quickly. That was all in January 2019. And then it goes to the notaire, and the notaire has to do his due diligence. Now, Italy is a funny system, because if there are debts associated with a house and you buy a house, you can possibly end up taking on those debts. It all depends how they're secured, and it is a complicated system. It's not a system we have here in Austria. So it turned out that there were some tax debts from old tax debts. I mean, from a long time ago, from one of the inheritors of this house, and that's where the problem started. So the estate agent was extremely upfront, called us up straight away and said, "Don't buy this house. You can't buy this house. It's a disaster. It's got to go through the tax office. It'll take forever, and who knows what will happen." And we said, "Well, let's see what happens. We still want to buy the house. Why don't we try and negotiate this with the tax office?" So we did. We got an accountant to work it all out. The accountant negotiated this with the tax office. Nothing happened. Still nothing happened. We went down in summer. We went down in September. We tried to talk to people, but everyone said, no, this is happening, but nothing was happening. So patience is, I think, a great thing when you're dealing with administrations in most countries, but in Italy it's absolutely essential. At the end of September, they said, "Okay, we've come to an agreement with Equitalia, which is the Italian tax office, and we're able to do this now." I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of tax. It wasn't a huge amount of house, and it certainly wasn't a huge amount of percent of the house that was owned by the person who had the tax debt. So it was a lot of faffing about. And the solicitor said, and this was one that got my girlfriend extremely worried. He said, the way to do this, the only way to get this done quickly and to put pressure on Equitalia, is to transfer them some money. So would you mind transferring us the full price of the house, plus the fees, plus the agency fees, plus the taxes, to our solicitor's account, and we'll let you know when we've managed to deal all of this, because we'll send the money then to the tax office." And I thought, is that clever? It probably wasn't, but we did it. So we just transferred the whole batch of money over at the end of summer, and lo and behold, the house was ours at the end of November. So it was a long and sweaty process. Everyone was really good about it, though. The sellers were up front. The estate agent kept in contact, and this was the real importance of having the estate agent. He was very upfront, and he said, this could all go wrong, but you'll get your money back if it does. And for us, it was just this house. We really wanted this house, so we took a risk on it. A lot of people wouldn't have done, but what I can say is if you want something, you can make it work. And the administration in Italy is quite surprising. I'm going to tell you a little anecdote in a second about that. But what's really important is the house was ours. We got it. We did it. So we have this beautiful house, and you're going to follow us fall in love again and again and again with this house, room by room and week by week. And I hope very soon to be able to get back down there because I'm itching. And I found some old videos, a bit of electricity that I did when I was down there last, so I should post that. We've got like a kitchen which we're going to try and organise so we can take down there, so I'll post a bit of that. But really, we just need to get down to Italy. We need to get back there. So now for the anecdote. So now the house belongs to us, and I went down in January when I was filming that minuscule little bathroom, as someone mentioned. Yes, a bit claustrophobic, but it is only an ensuite, and it will be end up being a guest bedroom. So, and I went to see David, a wonderful estate agent in Pontremoli at Immobile Nova. I can highly recommend them. Excellent chap, excellent English. And I said, okay, what do I need to do? And he said, you need to go to the town hall and you need to do the tari. And the tari is the tax part for them to come and collect your garbage. And with the tari, you need to do your local taxes. So I went down to the office. He told me which office to go to. I went in there, fabulously friendly person. Didn't speak a huge amount of English, but that wasn't a problem. So he said, okay, yeah, you've got your taxes. You have to pay your tax. There's a bollo, which just means bill, basically. So you get this tax bill. And he said, yeah, why don't you come back tomorrow and let me look at all the paperwork here. Leave the paperwork here. So I left this piece of paper that I had from the notaire that we bought the house. And he said, I'll look at this and come back tomorrow. Go next door to this lady who deals with the garbage collection. So I went next door to the lady with the garbage collection. She said, oh, yeah, this is fine. Okay, so we'll just fill all of this out. Again, always the question, is this a secondary residence? And if it is, you pay more money, we pay more electricity, we pay more water. So those are important things to bear in mind, that you will pay more than an Italian for everything that you have if it's a second home. But I think that's fair enough. So then the lady at the tax for the household waste collection, she said, okay, well, have you got an email? I said, yeah, of course I have an email. Here is my email. It's 2020. Here is my email. She said, great, I'll send you a bill. And I said, okay, well, do you have any idea how much it should be? Oh, it won't be much. She said. I said, okay, great. Well, when do you think you'll send me the bill? And this was January. She said, oh, probably sometime in May. I said, really? She said, yeah, sometime in May. But it's fine. If you go to the office outside, they'll give you some dustbin bags and you just use them and it'll be fine. We'll send you the bill when we get around to it. I'll send it to you by email. I said, oh, well, okay. That sounds fine. I'm happy to do that. So you just send me the bill whenever the bill arrives. I thought, God, these Italians, no wonder they're in such a mess. They take 6 months to give you a bill from the government. So I went back the next day for your local council tax, I guess it's called in England, is council tax. And the guy said, oh yeah, I've looked at everything. Yeah, well, I wouldn't really worry about it yet. Why don't you come back in June? And in June, we'll give you a bill, and then you can pay it from June. Does that sound all right? Oh, I said, yeah, that sounds fine. And then, and this is, it's quite a useful thing, the internet. So I follow Pontremoli, which is the local town, which, our administrative centre. I follow it on Facebook. And with all of this coronavirus disaster and pandemic that's going on, they had a lot of information they were publishing, and Facebook automatically translates a lot of it. And it turns out that they've decided to cancel all tax payments for this year because of the situation, and they just don't want people to be under undue stress. So it's brilliant. There will be no tax, and I won't be getting a bill immediately, and they'll still come and pick up the rubbish if I ever get down there to make any rubbish and take it out. So so that was my experience of buying a house. As far as I'm aware, anyone in the EU can buy a house in Italy, and they have this rule of reciprocity. I don't know what that's the right word in English, but it means if an Italian can buy a house in your country, you can buy a house in their country. So an Italian can buy a house in the USA, and an American can buy a house in Italy, and that's the way it is, as far as it was explained to me. Now, I'm an EU citizen. I can buy anything anywhere in Europe, and I can live anywhere in Europe without any great difficulty. So don't hold me on that. I'm sure there's much more and better information available from the Italian consulate, wherever it is that you happen to live. And they are extremely nice and extremely friendly. At least they are here in Innsbruck. They are. Everyone I've met in Italy at any government administration has been simply wonderful and made a huge effort to accommodate my terrible Italian and my even more appalling Italian accent on my terrible Italian. And they've been fabulous. They've been wonderful. So don't hesitate to go and talk to people, ask questions. If you're going to buy a house, check out the area, make sure that the minimums are there. Think about how long you're going to stay in this house. It's wonderful to have a house with 200 flights of stairs and to be right up on top of a hill so you have the best view, and not be able to get there with a car. But what happens in 20 years' time when you don't want to be carrying stuff up the hill anymore? So, think long term. There are some really great bargains to be had out there. But be careful, because there are also some things that could go wrong. Ours very nearly went wrong, but in the end it didn't, and I'm very glad it didn't. Otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about it today. And take the plunge. Just take the plunge. It's a lot of house. It's a lot of country. There's so much culture, and the food and the people. And the weather. It's definitely worth doing. Thanks for watching. I've set up an Instagram thing with pictures, so there's a link somewhere down there, I think. Look at the Instagram pictures if you're interested. Write me if you have any questions, if you want to see anything. Over the next couple of days, I shall be uploading some stuff that I filmed in January about the electricity. It's not a huge amount, but it might interest some of you, about how the electrical system is set up, and how much or how little electricity you get as a starter. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of got a free kitchen here that I picked up off like a free ad site, the equivalent of Craigslist here in Austria. And what we're going to do with that, and we're trying to do some things with it before we take it down. And of course, hopefully very soon you'll have a video of me sitting in my VW bus on the motorway on the way down to Italy. Up until then, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Don't let a second wave of this pandemic come and cause another lockdown. So stay distant, be good. Thank you for watching, and good luck in all that you do.